In this video, we're going to use Lua to fix a ship pathing problem. So this is from one of Gunner's scenarios, Mediterranean Fury 1 Road to Byzantium or something like that. Originally when he did it, he had this naval base here. Then there was some pathing problems of getting the ships out here, so I think he's moved it out onto this point someplace. But I have this save from his original game, and I've stripped out all the units from the other side for the most part and added a few in of my own. I have a EC2 Hawkeye that's totally out of the wrong time period, but it's to be able to see these ships. Some of these are some pretty good modern destroyers, I think. So different than what's going to be in the game, so I don't want to have there be any spoilers. These ships are in the game. I didn't bother to replace them, and they're in this port. So I haven't done anything yet. I'm just going to roll time forward on this so we can see what's going to happen. I'm going to change it to 30 seconds. These ships here are trying to get out. They're trying to get over to their mission takes them over here. They're all trying to get out, but if you look over here on the side, they're engaged offensive. And look at that, one guy finally did make it out eventually. They're engaged offensive because of these ships over here that are spotted by these guys. If these ships weren't here, I believe I'll mark these all as friendly. They should no longer be engaged offensive. And I think, yeah, now they're on a plotted course. I think now the ships, for the most part, are going to be able to get out of the straits. But once they go offensive, let's see, let's move a couple of them out past this point. They just have a lot of trouble with that one little area there. Let's watch this one. This one's just come out of port. Hits, yeah. It's doing pretty good, and it makes a little right turn, goes in a little circle there. But a lot of them are doing okay. If you go back up here and mark these as hostile, now they all, see how they all immediately went towards them, but there's land there. Now they just get totally lost. So we're going to try and fix that. The idea that I have that seems to work is that if you were going to do this manually, say, let's take this ship, this one ship, I'm going to move it back over here. If you were to do this manually and plot a course through here, it's not that hard to get out. It's just that the AI can't do that. So now if I press play, you're going to see this probably isn't going to work for very long. Let's see. Ignore plotted course is equal to yes. I've had mixed results when I do this. If the ignore plotted course is marked as yes, I think what's going to happen is if I mark these as friendly, pressing F, now I'm going to mark them as hostile, and let's go see where that one ship is. I lost track of which one it was. But it's that one, right? He should be on this plotted path. But you can see the plotted course is still here, but it's not going to get on that course until it goes up to that ship somehow and then comes back down. So the ship's just lost. And that is because over here, ignore plotted course is not set to no. I don't want it to ignore the plotted course. When I make a plotted course, I want it to stay on that so that it can get through here. And now it's respecting my plotted course, and it's not going to matter whether or not these go from friendly to hostile. Let's see. It's hard to do. It's this ship here. And now I'll press H to mark them as hostile. See how this ship didn't deviate from its course because ignore plotted course is no. Don't ignore the plotted course. So what we want to do is make an event that as a ship leaves port and it enters an area, you want to assign each ship a manual course, and then you want to change the plotted course from ignore yes to ignore no. So I'm going to get a lot of these guys. I'm going to select B to go back to base and have them go back. You can go back, and I'm going to move time up forward just to get them back in port. Okay, so I've put the those guys on some sort of naval strike mission. They're probably going to come down and kick our butt. We'll see what happens. Maybe they'll be able to... There we go. They can defend themselves. That's what we wanted to see. All right, how are we doing on sending guys back to port? I'm going to put this ship over here, and then I'm going to use this one ship to plot a course out to where I want to go. So I'm going to press F3, and this first waypoint needs to be pretty far off from where they are, because when they come out of the port, I think they might be able to come out in different places, although they seem to always come out the same spot. I want this to be as far away in a straight line as I can get it. And then I'm also trying not to do too many waypoints. Once it gets into this yellow line area, it doesn't actually matter if you stay in the middle where the water is. This little yellow trapezoid of sorts here is a safe path for the ship, so you can see all these guys coming back through or going through land, but since they're in this yellow area, it's okay. I think they've done that in the game around everywhere. You can sort of see a little yellow path around here also. It just doesn't... Actually, I guess there's a yellow path around all the coast. I wonder if that's the same thing. I don't think that's the same thing, because it's not the same color yellow. So now I have a path. I am going to right-click on this and get the unit ID on a clipboard, and then we're going to go into Lua console. Okay. So in here, we're just going to go get, we're going to set up a local variable, and we're going to go get the unit that we just copied to the clipboard. That's going to be sen edit get unit, and then I always just do 2 parentheses and go back and paste it in there. That on its own is not going to do anything. Then we're going to go print U. That's going to print out part of the unit wrapper. And it's not really going to do us much good, just proving that we've got it. What we really want to do is print U.course. Course doesn't show up in there for some reason. It's one of the... You have to dig a little deeper to get the course. And there is the course. So I'm going to copy this. And I'm going to go over into my text editor. I'm using Sublime Text. I'll show you one thing that's kind of cool about it. Here it's looking at it and it just thinks it's text, which means it's all white. If you were to open up just a blank Word document or something to keep track of this, you'd just get, maybe you'd get black text on a white background, but still it's not very helpful. In Sublime Text, I can go down here and tell it what kind of code it is. It's Lua. And of course, I need to find a way to tell it that I want it to word wrap. Word wrap. There we go. Learn something new every 5 minutes, it seems like. So now you can see that with the Lua set as the type of code that it is, you can see these are numbers. Numbers are purple, strings are yellow, comparison things are red, I think is what that is. It's a lot easier to read. So you can sort of go through this. The first waypoint is a manual plotted course waypoint. There's the longitude, there's the latitude. There's the second waypoint. So what we're going to do is as ships come out of this, we're going to assign them a manual course. So to do that, we are going to need an event. New event. We're going to create a new event. This is going to be, what's the name of the port over here again? Is Golkuk. Maybe we should be more formal and yeah, it's going to be good enough. And we're going to call this escape. So this is going to be Golkuk escape. Probably totally mispronouncing that. We definitely want this to be repeatable. As a trigger, the trigger is going to be unit remains an area. I'm going to move some of this stuff off the screen while we don't need it, and then I'll go get it again. So we're going to need we're going to do a rectangle, but you can't really do this. You would think you could do that, but we want to use a trigger of unit enters area, and the ship is going to be at port and it's already going to be in the area, so it's not going to work. So what I've been doing is making an area that looks roughly like this, which you'll be able to see more once once we make the actual trigger. So now we're going to go edit triggers, bring up our triggers. We are going to create a new trigger that's going to be unit enters area, create, and this is going to be goal cook escape. And the target side, what side are we on? We are on the NATO side. Target type is going to be ships and subs, so we're going to make 2 of these. Area to be inside is going to be add the points that are on the map, and now you should be able to see the area, but you can't. Interesting. But I think that's correct. 16,264. Yep. NATO. We're on the NATO side. WordPress. That's what I always want to say. WP means Warsaw Pact is the enemy. So we are surface ships. We don't need to drill down into any of this. It's going to be any ship that comes out of this. We don't want it to be aircraft or anything else. That is annoying that it did not highlight the area. I wonder if I have that set to off. There it is. Interesting. So now you can see if any ship comes out of this port, which they generally seem to go up, but even if they went down and came across here, this will catch them. And then we're going to make it as they go through there, we're going to change their course. So that is, we've got a trigger. Go back over here to our edit events. That's our trigger. Now we need an action. And we need to figure out what we want to do in the action. So let's see, maybe we're not quite ready for this. We're done with that trigger for now. Let's go back to the Lua console and see what actually needs to happen. So we have the course of this one unit. I'm going to go get another one, and I'm going to move it over here. I'm going to unassign it with U. And we're going to move time forward a little bit just to make sure it doesn't want to go back to base. Yep, it wants to go home. Or it doesn't want to go home. That's good. And now we're going to grab this unit's ID and back to the Lua console. We're going to swap out this. Make this window a little smaller. And now we're going to print out the course. Not going to have anything because I just made one little waypoint there for it. And now what we want to do is set the course. So we want, I'm going to go here and we're going to say u.course is equal to, we're going to go back and get what we got here. We're going to copy this whole thing and paste it back into here. Cooperate. And then at the end we're going to print the course to see if it worked. And there you go. Now here's where we printed that course. And turn off echo. And if we go back here and look, there it is. It now has that course. So it's going to be part of our Lua, but we still have ignore plotted course. I believe is always set to yes by default. Yep. So I must have changed that to no at some point when it went back. So I'm going to put it back to yes, and now we'll see what happens now that I have it on a plotted course. This might be one of those ones where it's happy for a little while. Okay, it's happy for now. It's staying on the plotted course, but I don't think it's going to. I'm going to mark these friendly by pressing F. And now when I go back and press some hostile, oh, no, it didn't work. Hostile. It's still going. Like I've said, I've had mixed results with that. I don't think that's safe. I think we need to make sure it's set to ignore plotted course. No, because it's engaged offensive, and if ignore plotted course is yes, then it's just going to make a right turn and go straight up and try and get it, and that's when they get stuck. So now we need to figure out how to set it to ignore plotted course. No. So we're going to go over here to the CMANO Lua GitHub page, and we're going to search for plotted course. There it is under doctrine. Ignore plotted course is a Boolean, which means true or false. And that's under doctrine. So now we need to figure out what doctrine is. How can we set a doctrine? We need to find a function. Set it at get doctrine. We want a set doctrine. Set it at set doctrine. Selector, that's going to be your unit name inside. And then what is the doctrine you want to change? So here's some examples. That's for the whole side. That's for a mission. This is for a unit name. So this is what we want. Go back to our Lua console. And after we do that, we're going to want to set it to plotted course no. We're on the NATO side. The unit name is this up here. And use nuclear weapons? Yes. Nope. That's going to be ignore underscore plotted underscore course. And we're going to flip it so that it's no. And now if we run this again, not going to see anything in the console, but when we go back to the game, there it is. It says it's no. Let's flip it again just to make sure it's doing something. We're going to say yes, even though this is a Boolean. We're using yes and no. Not sure why that is. And now it's back to plotted course equals yes. So what we want the action. We want the action for the event is, we've already got the trigger of the unit enters the area. Now we're going to edit the actions. We are going to make a Lua script action. And this is going to be I'm just calling it escape. And now what we want is roughly what we have in the console. Except we don't want to use, we do want to do that. Local U equals send edit get unit. And let's see, this is where I get confused with unit X. We're going to go back here and look for that again. I believe this is what we want here. Local unit equals send edit unit X. No, we want to be back here. Local U is going to be equal to unit X. Unit X is the unit that sets off the trigger. So the ship that comes out of port and crosses through our area that's surrounding the port for the trigger, that ship, that unit is unit X. So we want to set local U, our variable, equal to whatever that unit is. And then that way we can modify the course by saying u.course. And then down here where we're setting the doctrine, NATO is going to be hard-coded. That's fine. Unit name, that can't be a string like that. That needs to be u.name. Ignore plotted course equals yes. So now every ship should get this course set to it, and then it should change the ignore plotted course. It should be no, right? I don't want you to ignore the plotted course, even if you're engaged defensive. Let's press OK. Now we go over here. We need to find our action, and that is, probably need another trigger for subs, because I believe there is a sub in there. Unit enters area, create new trigger. We're on the NATO side, and this is going to be for submarines. Same points are on the map, 6264, yep. Okay. Done with triggers for now. Action's not going to change. Now we're going to add a second trigger here. So either one of these things will trigger the same action down here. It'll get the same course. Press OK. Let's think about what we've done here. I think we've done that part of it. So do we still have enemy ships up here? We do. What's going on here? Do we have any ships that are going to be ready soon? That guy is on the correct mission. Maybe he's going to be ready to go. That guy's going to be ready in 30 minutes. That shouldn't take very long. All right, so let's play it and speed it up again and see what happens. Yeah, those red ships are going to come and get us, I think. Yeah, that's probably going to be a problem. Let's stop. Switch to... I'm going to move them further away. Otherwise, the ships coming out might launch their harpoons and turn around before they even get up to the strait, and that wouldn't be any fun. Let's see. So, any new ship past this guy will be a good test of whether the action, of whether or not the event and the actions are working properly. Oh, there's a guy right there, and look at that, he's on the plotted course. So there's going to end up being one last thing that we should do to this, I believe. And that is going to be... So there's another ship that just left. There's another ship leaving. Let's see, ignore plotted course equal to no. So one of the things that plotted course does is, or that setting does, and as far as I can tell, that's only for offensive type purposes. When I do return to base, I cannot get it to not ignore the plotted course. I can't, is that right? I can't get it to follow the plotted course on the way back, because otherwise I can do the same thing on the way back. They do seem to find their way back to the base a lot easier than they have on the way out. But I have tried to do the same exact thing on the reverse way to make them actually go through the straits rather than going over this bit of land. And they ignore the plotted course every time. So you have to unassign them from returning to base, and then you'd have to reassign them the returning base once they got down here. And that just seems like too much work. So I haven't done that, but it certainly could be done. So when you have ignore plotted course equal to yes, that must be one of the first ones that should be set to no. There's no, there's no, there's no. Yeah, it should be, we're setting it to no. That must be one of the first guys. So when it's no, when it gets out to the end of this set path, if there's no enemy ship for it to go engage defensive against, it's going to want to go over to here where its mission area is somewhere in here. And so it's going to plot a course from this point to where it's going to go into the mission, which might be, it's going to go from here to up here, which is probably 100 miles. If while it's on that plotted course, it finds a target that it could be attacking, it can't deviate from the path because we've told it that it can't ignore the plotted course. So once the ships get out, even if it starts going up to its mission area off to the left up here, if it finds something over here, you probably want it to go after it before it goes to the end of its plotted course. So when the ships come out, I think we want to change them so that they... And why did that guy stop? He's not on a mission. So you see when this guy gets up to here, he's going to make a left-hand turn. There are no current enemy ships, so let's make sure that's going to be what happens. And what do we have? Ignore plotted course is no. The enemy ships are way up there, I think. They didn't go away. I'll go into God mode real quick. Oh, two of them are pretty close. Hopefully I don't get detected before this. I want this guy to turn left and go up to his missionary, so you see the difference with plotted course. Okay, so there he is. He's on his plotted course right there, and we have ignore plotted course equal to no. When we fly, oh, we lost the AWACS. We'll sacrifice a that guy's going to get shot down. But you can see over here, it's defensive, but he's not able to go towards it because he's still on the plotted course. This would make be a little bit easier to see if the ship was further away. These guys are all defensive, but they're still on their plotted course. Haven't actually tested it this close in. Let's see what happens. Yeah. This guy's on plotted course. If I change this to yes, it's going to be too late. And there's some sort of trick that needs to happen. The timing has to be right. I think maybe you need to find the ship after it's... What is this guy set to? On plotted course. Yeah, we were just getting destroyed. I was afraid that was going to happen with that mission. Man, I wonder what they're going to do. They're going to go down with Truxton kicking some butt. So I wonder what happens if we change one of these guys to... check that out. They lost their stuff. I've seen that a couple of times, and then I expand and contract the thing, and it comes back. Allow that guy. Which guy is that? FIR. This guy's set to ignore plotted course. Yes. Wait. I wonder why I can't see it. I wonder where it went. Whoa, they're driving over land. All we did was created an event. What we want is another event, whereas they're leaving. So once they've escaped, then we want to set ignore plotted course back to yes. So that should be pretty easy. We'll define another rectangle, something like that. Whenever you define a rectangle, it automatically deselects the other rectangle. So this rectangle we drew down there didn't really end up as a rectangle. That's already been deselected. We are going to create a trigger here. This is going to be unit enters area again. And I'm going to call this escaped. And we're just going to do the ship one. We're NATO. Ship. Add points on map. That should be enough. That is the trigger. We need an action. The action is going to be Lua. Naming that escaped. And what are we going to do here? We're going to do local U equals send edit get unit. No, that's not what it's going to be. It's going to be unit X like that. Is that what it is? Send edit unit X. That looks right. And now the only thing we really need to do is we didn't save the part of the action that we did on that other one. Edit triggers, edit actions. We just need this part here. And we're going to flip it and say that it's okay now to ignore the plotted course. NATO unit name, u.name. And then I like to do some print statements to make sure what we know is going on. We're going to say u.name dot dot so we can concatenate it with a string. And then we're going to do quotes space. And close it with another single quote. So here we got print u.name ... That's the syntax to concatenate the variable value with the string over here. We have a space because if we didn't put the space here, it would just run right into another. Unit name is leaving the straights. Okay to ignore course. Should have done that on some of the other ones. So let's copy that. Okay, that's the trigger for, that's the action. I think we're done with actions and triggers. Now we need the event for that. Create a new event. And this is escaped. Repeatable trigger. I didn't make a subs one, but we would. Same exact thing. Then the Lua action. Okay, that should work. We will go back into the actions so I can show you something about, we're going to add a print statement to this one. Aha, we're forgetting something. Yep, we're only thinking about the ships leaving port to go out on attack. We need to worry about them coming back to, what if they're returning to base? Once they go into the port, they're going to cross through that trigger area and they're going to turn around and go back out, possibly. So we need to handle that. U.name is leaving port. Assigning new course. Okay. Don't forget about RTB. Let's see, is the rest of this okay? Print u.name is leaving port, assigning new course. There's closing quote, there's an opening quote, there's a ... there's space. Okay. Okay. So what we need to do is send one of these guys back. Is anybody coming home yet? I don't think so. So I'm just going to press B on this guy. Move time forward a little bit so that I know what he's doing. Over here it says RTB, but what are the chances that the thing that he really is doing is status is equal to RTB? I doubt that, so we will go up here, get that unit ID on the clipboard, go back over here, paste it into here. And here we are going to print out U. See what we get. RTB manual unit state. There's also a condition. RTB manual sounds dangerous because this is going to be the AI side. It's not going to manually return something. Condition returning to base. So you can sort of see what we need here. We need u.condition and we need returning to base. This is the string. Let's see, we should be writing, keeping some of this stuff here. So this is going to be an if statement. If u.condition equals, going to be two equals signs, then this is a string, so we need to put it in quotes, single quotes or double quotes. Just using single quotes. If, then, and then there's going to be an end, and then we're going to do something in between. If u.condition is equal to returning to base, this will be on the trigger as they're leaving base, then we basically want to exit. First I'm going to do u.name ... space is returning . All right, is that right? So if the condition of the unit that triggers the event, if the condition of that unit is returning to base, then print u.name end. It's probably really going to just do an else. And then we've got this. And what was that? That was u.course equals. So up here, this is two equal signs because we're doing a comparison. We're not assigning u dot condition 2 returning to base. We're checking to see if it's equal to it. Two equal sign is a comparison. One equal sign down here, we are setting u dot course to this course. And we should probably do another print statement here. Dot dot is leaving port, assigning. I feel like I did this in the new course. I think I might have actually done that part. Let's see. If u.condition is returning to base, then print u.name is returning to base. It's not going to do anything. If it's coming home, we don't want to interrupt it. Else, if it's not RTB, print the name, sure, and then set u.course, and then we need that other thing where we were. I like to have it outside the editor in case something happens. I still have it. Plus, it's just easier to work on it there. Yep, unit is leaving course. That was a unit X. Do we have that in there? And then this little bit here. Set edit, set doctrine, NATO, unit name, ignore plotted course equals no. So that should be this. Escaping, we're escaping the port. The unit that triggers that, if the condition is returning to base, then we're not going to do anything except for print the unit is returning to base. If it's not returning to base, we're still going to print the name, but we're going to say the name is leaving port, assigning a new course. U.course equals the course out. Then we are going to set the doctrine to ignore plotted course. Okay. I think we already go ahead and put this back over here. The other thing that's in the editor, you can sometimes see if you did a mistake. Local U set it print. Right? This is as they're leaving. I believe that's right. So let's see what happens. So as they leave, and they'll go through here, it should assign them to plotted course equals no. It should go to yes. I believe we can play this now and see what happens. Anybody going to leave port? Got 3 ships. Those aren't assigned. I wonder why that guy's not going to leave. But it's a little distressing that these destroyers are going to come down here. I wonder where they are now. They're still escaping. Boy, that guy's going right past it. Can't even see it. That's weird. It's got its radars on. Let's see. So these guys should have ignore plotted course equal to yes. Yep. Yep. First guy probably doesn't. No. Second guy, yep. This guy is, what is this guy doing? Returning to base. So we should be checking to see if they're returning to base. It should be telling us that in the log. And so in the log, I like this thing called Snaketail. I use this all the time. This is a log monitor. And this is monitoring the Lua history file. So here I am in Matrix Games, Command War Game of the Year, logs. And there is actually the game log right there. I have that in another window just to get it out of here. Lua history log, anything that has a print statement or an error shows up in there. Notice it's named with today's date. So there's a bunch of them in here. And here are my little print statements. This guy's leaving the straits, okay to ignore. So I got a handful of people leaving, but I haven't gotten anybody coming back yet. So they should also be, when they leave, that should say something about them. And when they come home, it should say they're coming home, returning to base as well. Yep, ignore plotted course. And this guy's lost, of course. They generally find their way home pretty well. A lot better than... boy, that is trouble. We should probably fix that. Let's see here. Did some damage to that guy. Let's move him back a little bit. That should do it. Back to the NATO side. Now we need a way to, we're going to drop this guy. It's not really there. Back to needing our E3 sentry. And now they should show up over there. These guys are an allowed plotted course. Yes. Ignore the plotted course. Sure. And they are. See how they still have a plotted course. If we didn't change that from no back to yes, they wouldn't be doing that. This guy doesn't want to partake in the fun for some reason. And what do we have over here? 3 boats that don't want to come out. I'm going to assign these 2 to the same mission. And now that I've got them on the mission, let's see. Yep, deployment underway in 5 minutes. So what's going to happen? This guy is going to come home. Those guys are going to go out. We should be seeing... Uh-oh. No worky. Good thing we check these things. And we got an exception. Of course, we have an exception. Line 8, end, expected to close if. Yeah, that's always helpful. Line 8. Yep, if, else, and there's no end. So I don't really need to copy that anymore. Let's go back to actions. That is escape, edit. Yep. Actually, where does the end go? The end goes at the end of this. Otherwise, we would we'd be ending the course part, and then everything we wouldn't be. Probably wouldn't matter. The ships coming back to base would also get this changed to no, but that shouldn't matter. But the end should be at the end, actual end. Now it should work. I wonder if we did that on the same. This needs to do the same thing here. Right, we need to check if the condition is returning to base. If it's returning to base, we'll say it's returning to base. Else, we're going to change the ignore plotted course to yes. Don't need to do this part on the ships that are returning to base, right? Unit X is the trigger up top. If condition is returning to base, then we'll just say it's we'll just print it. Else, it's not returning to base. We're going to say ignored plotted course equals yes. That sounds better. That's escaped. Paste it. Okay. All right. So since this guy escaped, he's trying to escape on his own. There's 2 of them. Neither one of them are in a plotted course. I am just going to move them back over here. And now we'll start again. Oh, you can see the course changed. If we back to Snaketail, the log monitor, no error. That's from the last one. Now we've got that the Vulcan is leaving port, the Typhon. That's those guys. Wish I could pronounce some of these things, but I can't. Lots of mayhem going on up here. Oh, yeah. Yeah, you might want to leave now. I don't think I have the... they probably should turn around and run once their primary weapon is empty. I'm going to change that in the other screen. Primary attack weapon exhausted. No need to keep running into... There you go. Now they're all coming back because they already shot off all of their different anti-ship missiles. Kind of seems like some of them that have good guns should turn around and fire back at this guy, but... So what do we got going on? This guy is going to return to base when he crosses the area. It's going to trigger saying the Ruzgar is returning. So these guys should be on their course. Yeah, I could probably move the... You know, that if we were doing this for real, maybe you'd make that a little bit better course. Doesn't need to come all the way out there. Could have been moved in a little bit. Same thing with this one. Obviously, just turning this one course isn't going to affect the action because it's hard-coded. And look at that. The guy launched his missiles and he's turning around to go back to port. Where is our log? The Ruzgar is returning to base. That was that guy that just went past there. Now it's going to say this guy is returning to base. We should also get a bunch of these guys returning to base as they cross this threshold. Yep, that one. That's that guy. And this guy's already leaving port again. That was a pretty quick turnaround. He just, yeah, he just returned to base there. Now he's already coming back. So that's all these guys coming across, returning to base. 1, 2, 3, should be 3 more. Yep. All right. This guy's going out. He's on the plotted course. Should be ignore equals no. This guy should be ignore equals no. And there's a sub in here just to prove that works. That is a sub of some sort. Yep. Go back up to faster speed. And the only thing we had to do to get the sub to work was to make another trigger that was unit enters area, and it was set to a sub. There it is. It just hit the unit enters area. Now it has its manual course. And then we didn't do that on the outside part up here, but we could have just needed another trigger. So that's pretty much it. I think we did it without this. Without assigning a manual course to the ships as they leave the port, they can hardly get it past this point here. They get mixed up all over the place. Notice when these guys are coming back, they do pretty well. They might get hung up on this corner once or twice, but they generally do pretty well. I did try to assign the course on them coming back, but it's a little more difficult because once they're in this RTB status, you can't use this ignore plotted course thing anymore. It just totally ignores whatever course I put in there.